You are listening to the CPA MOMS Podcast with Dawn Goldberg, CPA. This is episode number 221, A Different Perspective on Quiet Quitting. Welcome to the CPA MOMS Podcast, the podcast where busy female accountants who also happen to be moms like you get practical support and solutions you need to have it all, a successful career and a happy family. If you are looking for the solution to overwhelm and mom guilt, if you'd like to feel better and have more balance, as well as learn how to take back control of your life, you've come to the right place. Hey there, welcome back to this week's show. As always, I hope you had a great week. I hope the holidays are not creating too much pressure for you. I know that between you and me, the holidays really do fall on the mom's shoulders. We all know that. It doesn't even matter how helpful everybody is in the family, or really how old your children are. My children are grown, and I still feel like I have the pressure of the holidays on me. But I hope that you enjoy the time with your family and that you can just find some time to fill your cup up because we're like giving, we're like depleting our cup with all the different things that we have to do for the holidays. But just spend some time filling up your cup in whatever way that is. All right, before I get started, I just want to mention that at CPA Moms on December 30th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are going to have a Zoom call where we're going to be celebrating your wins. So if you would like to virtually meet me, I would love to virtually meet you. We're going to be having this Zoom call in order to not only learn how to celebrate our wins, but also I'm going to provide a space for all of us to share what we've accomplished this year. As I mentioned last week, if you have a hard time celebrating yourself, I'm going to discuss why that is so common for women and what to do about it. And as an added bonus for attending the webinar, I'm going to be raffling off my new book, The Smarter Accountant. So I would love to meet you. I'd love to hear all about your wins. I'd like to help you if you have challenges with being able to celebrate yourself. So please consider joining us. You will see the details in our newsletter. You'll see the registration for signing up for that in our newsletter. If you're not a part of our community, please consider joining us. You can join us by going to facebook.com/groups/CPA Moms. Or if you want, you can just email me, Dawn, DAWN, .Goldberg, GOLDBERG, @CPAMoms.com, and let me know that you would like to join us. And I will get you hooked up. All right. So let's get started with this week's episode. So this is episode number 221, and the title is A Different Perspective on Quiet Quitting. Now, have you heard this term? First of all, have you heard the term quiet quitting? Well, it's believed to have started on TikTok, but it has really gained popularity in all forms of social and mainstream media. So, for example, on August 12th of this year, of 2022, the Wall Street Journal published an article titled, "If Your Coworkers Are Quiet Quitting, Here's What That Means." The Guardian also published an article that was titled, "Quiet Quitting, Why Doing the Bare Minimum at Work Has Gone Global." As the term has been tossed around, it has also been defined and redefined. For some, the term quiet quitting refers to mentally checking out from work. But for others, it's about not accepting additional work without additional pay. Now, Forbes magazine describes it this way. Quiet quitting was a popular phrase early in the year with the idea that many employees were looking to put the bare minimum effort into their jobs, enough to complete their daily tasks, enough to avoid being sacked, but not going above and beyond to do more than the minimum requirements. Now, if the Forbes article also says that many who have embraced the quiet quitting approach were doing it to have more time to focus on other sources of income, whether it's a side hustle or something in addition to your job. They've become much more popular and attainable over the past few years. So if the Forbes article is correct, it appears that in this post-pandemic world, we're not as comfortable solely relying on our jobs to support or to fulfill us, right? As evidenced by the Great Resignation, right? People are questioning many of their choices, and they're no longer buying into the previous generation's belief that you kept the same job for life, you retired after 40 plus years, and were given a well-deserved going away party at the end. The interesting thing is that the term quiet quitting has become so popular that people are also using it in context other than employment. For example, the idea of quiet quitting is being applied to relationships, which refers to when one person stops trying and gives up without telling the other person about their feelings or their needs. And since so much has already been discussed on this topic, I honestly wasn't planning on doing an episode on it. But then I actually started to do my research, and I realized I have a lot to talk about when it comes to the subject of quiet quitting, especially as it pertains to you, accountant moms. So even if you're tired of hearing about quiet quitting, I'm going to suggest you continue listening because I might surprise you with my perspective. And so this week I'm going to discuss why the concept of quiet quitting is problematic for accountant moms and what you should be calling it instead. All right, so let's start with why it's problematic. So if you read or listen to people discussing the concept of quiet quitting, it's being portrayed as not outwardly quitting, but doing just the bare minimum. They'll say that you're doing your job, but you're not going above and beyond, leaving when it's time to leave or not staying later. But here's the problem with that portrayal. That's not quitting. That's called managing your life. Doing what you're being compensated to do is not quitting. That's doing your job. So from the time my daughter Kelly was born 30 years ago, I have worked part-time. And as I've shared in previous episodes, I was working at Deloitte at the time, and the partner in charge of the tax department, he didn't want to lose me. So he offered me the first part-time position in the office. Now, this was in the early 1990s, and part-time positions were extremely rare. I worked 3 days a week from 8:30 to 5:30. I dropped my daughter off at the babysitter by 7:30 a.m., and I picked her up around 6:30 p.m. from the babysitter. So here's what I often heard from my male colleagues when I would leave at 5:30. They would say something like, "Oh, working half a day?" Right? They had no idea how much work I got done in 8 hours that I was there. But I can tell you that it was more than they did. I even went to the tax partner to make sure that he didn't think I was quote unquote working half a day when I left at 5:30 on the days that I worked. And he said, "I know you get more done than anyone else. Why do you think I created the position for you?" Now, if the term quiet quitting had been around back then, I would be considered as a quiet quitter because I didn't stay at work until 8 p.m. And forget the fact that I was more productive and efficient in 24 hours a week than most of the department was in 50 plus hours a week, and I still am. The issue is that our hustle culture has bombarded us with the idea that if we're not giving 110%, we're not doing a good enough job. We're made to believe that what we're giving isn't good enough and that we should always be looking to give more. But consider this. Who does it actually benefit to have people discussing and worrying about the concept of quiet quitting? I don't know about you, but it sure sounds like employers would be happy to have their employees question their level of commitment and productivity. And guess who it hurts the most? Working moms. We've already got enough hoops to jump through and glass ceilings to try to break. Now you want to describe us doing what we're hired to do as quote unquote not doing our job or not being dedicated enough? Like seriously? Unfortunately, as young girls, we are already taught that we need to work twice as hard to have a seat at the table, that we should just be grateful for what we have and not be too pushy or advocate for ourselves. And heaven forbid we show how incredibly capable we are, then we're expected to pick up other people's slack so that we can be considered good team players. But here's the truth. Doing your job to the best of your ability, leaving when the normal workday is done, bringing your kids to the doctor when they're sick, being home to have dinner as a family, and not answering email on the weekend does not make you a quiet quitter. It makes you a hardworking accountant mom. Now, my children are now grown and they're out of the house, but I still choose to work part-time for the firm that I've been at for the last 20 years. I work from 9:15 to 3:15, 5 days a week, and I do my best during those 30 hours a week to get more done in less time. I don't work past 3:15, and I don't ever apologize for it. Besides being a CPA, I'm also a professional certified coach for accountants, and I run my own coaching business when I'm not at my accounting job. I am a wife. I am a mother. I'm the community manager here at CPA Moms. I create this weekly podcast, and I wrote a book this year. I give my entire life 100%. However, there isn't one piece that's more important than the other. I am not quiet quitting because I do the job I'm paid for without burning myself out in the process. I'm doing my best to have the balanced life that I deserve, and I have worked hard to create. So now I'm going to talk about what we should be calling quiet quitting instead. Now, I understand there are plenty of people who are truly dialing it in when it comes to their jobs. There are many in the accounting profession who are doing the bare minimum and getting paid to grossly underperform. Now, believe me, I get it. I've dealt with this in my office over the past few years, and it's incredibly frustrating. Watching adults allowed to behave unfairly and incompetently is annoying, to say the least. But when it comes to hardworking accounting moms who are trying to balance having both a career and a family, who in essence have two full-time jobs, one of which can require being up all night with a sick child, we need employers to see us as valuable, not quiet quitting just because we're not willing to sacrifice our physical, mental, and emotional life for our jobs. Is it quiet quitting when you leave the office at 5 p.m. to pick up your child from daycare so you don't have to pay extra and the wonderful childcare providers can go home and have dinner with their families? No, it's called being a good mother and a considerate human being. Is it quiet quitting when you say no to attending that conference because your son is in his first soccer tournament and he really wants you to be there? No, it's called supporting your child. Is it quiet quitting to have a bookkeeping side hustle in order to have extra money for your family? No, it's called using your gifts and talents. Is it quiet quitting to ask for a flexible work arrangement so that you can help take care of an ailing parent? No, it's called being a kind human being. Is it quiet quitting to not want the promotion because of the added responsibility? No, it's called having your own career vision and priorities. Is it quiet quitting to end work at 3:15 p.m. each workday? No, it's called having healthy boundaries. Is it quiet quitting to create a podcast that helps thousands of accountant moms, run a coaching business for accountants, and write a book for accountants? Hell no. It's called being multi-passionate. So instead of employers seeing their employees through a quiet quitting lens, maybe it's time they appreciated what they do while they're doing their job that they're paid for and not expect them to over-deliver without being compensated in some way. Maybe the Great Resignation wouldn't have hit the accounting industry so hard if how you do your job wasn't described in such negative terms. And the funny thing is that they say this new generation is lazy and they have a sense of entitlement. But maybe, just maybe, they've learned from the frustrated, burned out, and stressed out older generation. Maybe they're trying to challenge what's considered quote unquote normal and discover a new normal. What if we all intentionally and unapologetically created our own new normal? Instead of judging each other and labeling each other as quiet quitting, let's take some time to define what works for us in terms of our jobs, our careers, and our lives. So don't let some popular term like quiet quitting shame you or make you feel guilty for doing your job and not sacrificing yourself in the process. Do your best and do what you're paid for, but don't let someone try to convince you that you're doing anything wrong. There is nothing wrong with being a working mom who doesn't sacrifice herself or her family for her work. You can still be a great accountant and march to the beat of your own drum. Are there people who aren't pulling their weight and they're getting paid handsomely to do less than you? Of course, absolutely. But don't let someone else's bad behavior automatically make you question yours. So let's choose to be an example of what's possible for each other instead of worrying if we're doing enough. Now, I'm sure there's some accountant mom out there that needs to hear this. So here goes. You're doing enough, and you are enough, just the way you are. So in summary, consider this. Who does it actually benefit to have people discussing and worrying about the concept of quiet quitting? And finally, here's the truth. Doing your job to the best of your ability, leaving when the normal workday is done, bringing your kids to the doctor when they're sick, being home to have dinner as a family, and not answering email on the weekend does not make you a quiet quitter. It makes you a hardworking accountant mom. All right, there you have it. That was episode number 221, a different perspective on quiet quitting. So did you see that coming? I'm a little passionate about this topic. The more I read about it, I was like, are you kidding me? The way they were describing it, quiet quitting, I was like, seriously. I could see everybody looking at accountant moms as if they're quiet quitting because they're not willing to be a sacrificial lamb. They want to have an accounting career and have a family and have a life. And I just remembered back, like I said, back in the 1990s when my coworkers would be like, oh, working half a day. And yeah, it so annoyed me. But then when I spoke to the partner in charge of the tax department, he made me feel better. And I was able to ignore their, sarcastic comments. But that still stuck with me, this perception of if you're not doing what everybody else is doing, then you're not dedicated, which I think is just laughable. And I think it's also poisonous. On the one hand, it's absurd, but on the other hand, it's become part of the way that we think about each other. It's the lens that we use. And it's just like another way when you have this popular term in social media and mainstream media, quiet quitting, people start to think about that in terms of themselves and other people. And I think we just do a disservice to ourselves. And like I said, there's many, many ways to describe things that people would consider quiet quitting is not quiet quitting. It's being a kind human being. It's having your own career and your own priorities. It's using your gifts and talents. It's supporting your child, right? It's all these other things. It's not quiet quitting. I hope my perspective might have helped you to see quiet quitting in a different way. And if you know anybody who would need to hear what I shared, please feel free to share this podcast with them. And we would just want to be able to reach as many accountant moms as we can to help support you in any way that we possibly can. And just to know that you're not alone, right? We see you, we get you. And again, if there's anybody out there that needs to hear this, you're doing enough and you are enough just the way you are. All right. Have a great week and I will talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you like what you heard, be sure to click subscribe on your podcast app so you never miss an episode. At CPA Moms, we pride ourselves on being the e-harmony of the accounting world, making it possible for business owners to have their accounting needs met by amazing CPAs that are moms just like you. Whether you are an accountant interested in growing your own solo mompreneur business, or perhaps you are looking for flexibility to work from home, or maybe you are looking to grow your current firm or team, CPA Moms has what you are looking for. Check us out at cpa-moms.com.